All right, welcome everyone. Today we have an incredibly practical, high-energy explainer guide tailored specifically for IT professionals, network troubleshooters, and honestly, anyone who just wants to stop guessing and start actually solving problems. We are looking at the Smart Technician's Guide to LAN and WAN Troubleshooting. If you have ever felt that awful sinking pressure of a network going down while an entire office of frustrated people just stare at you, waiting for answers, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to transform the way you rapidly diagnose network issues, completely tossing out the guesswork and replacing it with pure, targeted logic.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our agenda for today, and I want you to look at this not just as a standard list, but as a perfect diagnostic checklist to mentally structure your troubleshooting out in the field. We're starting with decoding complaints, then we'll look at single device faults, tackle total blackouts, expose the absolute trickery of fake Wi-Fi, diagnose external WAN failures, and finally, lock it all in with the golden rule.
So, let's kick things off with Section 1, decoding the customer complaint, or translating those wild symptoms into actual diagnostics.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it highlights a fundamental conflict in IT support. There is this massive, massive gap between what the panicked customer sees and what you, the technician, actually need to know to fix the thing. When a client calls you, they aren't telling you where the fault is, right? They're just describing their pain. Look at the contrast here. On the left, you've got the customer frantically screaming, "The internet is down!" That is purely a symptom, entirely colored by panic. But over on the right, your brain has to immediately translate that frantic energy into calm, objective logic. Isolate the fault. Because you aren't fixing the entire internet, you're just locating exactly where that invisible chain of data actually broke.
Which brings us beautifully to our first real scenario in Section 2. Fixing single device faults, right there in the local arena.
You know, in networking, scale is your absolute best friend. This is Act 1 of our troubleshooting journey, and it focuses heavily on the scale of the failure. Paint a mental picture with me for a second. You walk into this bustling office. Keyboards are clacking, emails are flying, the coffee machine is doing its thing, but one single employee is sitting there totally frustrated, staring at a giant red X over their connection icon. Just one person. The entire rest of the office is browsing smoothly. By identifying that specific detail, boom, you have just isolated the problem entirely locally.
Looking at the causes here, the logic is totally clear. The problem is strictly local. It's going to be a damaged cable under the desk, an accidentally disabled network card, or maybe just bad IP settings on that specific machine. Your action? Inspect the local device only. And listen, here is your strict, unbreakable rule of thumb. Never, ever touch the main router. It sounds so obvious, I know, but you would be absolutely amazed how many techs start rebooting central switches and altering core settings for a localized single-device failure. Just keep your hands off the core. All right, shifting gears entirely, let's look at the exact opposite end of the spectrum in Section 3, handling total network blackouts. What to do when the entire office goes dark. We are instantly jumping from an isolated issue to Scenario 2, the total blackout. Literally, no one can connect to the internet, no one can print to the network printer, and nobody can browse internal company files. The drama is high, the panic is spreading like wildfire, and people are probably swarming your desk. But, paradoxically, for a smart technician, this catastrophic office-wide failure actually narrows down our search area beautifully. Let's break down the incredibly straightforward logic here. When the scope of the failure is literally everything, the scope of the hardware has to be central. The causes? You're looking at a central switch failure, a complete power loss in the server room, or massive core cable damage linking the infrastructure. So your action is obvious. Immediately bypass the individual cubicles and go straight to checking the central hardware power in the server room.
Okay, moving on to Section 4, and this is a really fun one. The fake Wi-Fi connection, the external illusion. We're diving into the trickier, invisible side of networking now, where symptoms become highly, highly deceptive. I want to ask you this directly, and it's something you've probably dealt with 1,000 times. Why is the Wi-Fi bar completely full, but the internet is completely dead? We've all been there, right? Users will literally wave their phones in your face, pointing at the signal strength. It completely challenges our everyday assumptions about what that little Wi-Fi icon actually guarantees. And, spoiler alert, it guarantees a lot less than people think. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept of the WAN or ONT link. This is the critical gateway connection bridging your local router to the outside world. Think of it like this.
Your smartphone or laptop can successfully talk to the router locally, which is why you get those 4 beautiful, full Wi-Fi bars, even if that router is completely deaf to the outside world. The local conversation is happening just fine, but the bridge to the global internet completely collapsed.
So your diagnosis here is simple. Excellent local signal, but isolated externally. Your action as a technician? Stop looking at the user's laptop screen. Guide yourself exactly where you need to look to solve this fake connection illusion. Go directly to the CPE router and check that specific WAN or internet light. Verify the ONT connection, the optical network terminal. You absolutely gotta verify if the router itself is actually receiving the internet from the provider in the first place.
Which sets us up perfectly for Section 5, External WAN Failures, Working Local, but Broken Global. This final scenario forces you to elevate your understanding from just checking physical cables to thinking about logical routing. Visually contrast these two realities for a second. On the left side, employees are printing massive documents successfully, they're sharing files over the local server without a hitch. But on the right side, absolutely no one can browse any external websites, nobody can even pull up Google. You have a fully functioning internal local area network, but an entirely broken external wide area network. So the crucial point is this. The LAN is 100% healthy. It's the WAN gateway that's the issue. If an employee can print a 50-page document to the network printer, you absolutely shouldn't waste a single second of your precious time checking local network switches. Skip it. Your action has to be inspecting the incoming fiber cable from the street, verifying DNS settings, or checking if there's just a wider ISP outage in the area. All right, it is time to bring all of this together in Section 6, the Technician's Golden Rule, your ultimate cheat sheet. We are going to consolidate all this diagnostic knowledge into a rapid mental framework that you can take directly into the field today. Let's see how this builds into an amazing summary matrix. Seriously, I highly recommend you mentally screenshot this exact table. Let's run through it. Single device acting up, the location is that specific PC, so check local cables only. Total blackout, the location is the LAN corp, so head to the server room power. Fake Wi-Fi, the location is the router's external link, so check the WAN light. And if the LAN works but the internet is down, the location is the ISP or main fiber, so check the incoming external connection. It really is that simple and that systematic. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this absolute gem of a quote. A Wi-Fi signal only means you hear the router inside the room. It never means the router's voice reaches the outside internet. I really want you to remember that. It is literally the ultimate takeaway for visualizing these invisible network connections. Keep it in your back pocket because it fundamentally shifts how you explain a problem to a really frustrated customer. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time a customer panics on the phone, are you going to just react to the symptom, or are you going to step back and use this methodology to isolate the system? Take this diagnostic mindset, apply it to your very next support call, and just watch how quickly you transform pure chaos into rapid, professional clarity. Keep learning, keep troubleshooting, and thank you so much for joining this explainer.